from the main building. Here we have the productions of the mushrooms and the old greenhouse, also the laboratory and the energy facilities, the Belgium endives, and we have here the organic farm. We have already 25 years organic farm, which is part of Inagro. A lot of our colleagues are working in diverse disciplines. So we have the mushrooms, but also we do at aquaculture and insect breeding. This is important because I will come back to that on the cabbage fly research. And we have a new greenhouse, Agrotopia, which is built on the roof of the auction here in Roeselare. So it's more modern, and it's facilities for research doing in specific crops, also in small areas and growing chambers. And this is the map of Belgium, and Inagro is laying in the heart of the province West Flanders, which is the province of the coastal province. It's actually the province where Bruges lies. So maybe a lot of you know Bruges. Fine, and now we've grown quite fast the last years. When I started here, we were less than 100 people. Now we are 230, more or less. The big group are researchers. We also have advisors and technical people, and of course people from the lab and the central departments. This is a picture of the whole group. And today we will present you results of our team, the team from the outer vegetables, and it's my colleague Jonathan, and this is me on the team building activity of last year. The research, Rosemary already told, we are involved in quite some research projects. 36% is international through the whole of Europe. Each year we do more than 400 field trials. We also have 38 hectares of field trials on our campus, and we work with farmers on their fields to do experiments. Here you see a picture of the zucchini trial in our greenhouse. We are open knowledge systems, so membership is for free, and we have weekly a newsletter. You can, it's in Dutch, that's a pity for you. But farmers are getting informed by that from our research and activities we are doing. And we also giving demos with machineries, mostly in summertime, of course. And then we present them results of our work. So this was very short introduction of Inagro. And now I will give you some most important results from my colleague who is working on cabbage fly and cauliflower. The thing is, I guess it's the same in the UK. We have really big problems with the cabbage root fly. We don't have so much molecules anymore. So you all know that it's laying his eggs at the feet of the plant. We do the monitoring by means of this kind of things. And then you have the damage of the larvae of the maggots into the stem, causing big disease if you are not able to treat them. In Belgium, we have 3 generations. It will be the same for you, depending on the time of the year or now we have quite an early spring, and we already have damage. Last year it was later season, so it depends. But the thing is, I just told you that we have colleagues working in insect breeding, and they had a really interesting thing because they have insect frass. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a kind of manure. It's excrements and skin parts and substrates from the insect breeding. So it's a kind of mixture, and it's very rich in organic matter and chitine. So if you sanitize it, because you don't want to have living insects into your manure, it has also a high amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And we have done some preliminary tests before, and we saw it has an effect on the cabbage fly. So this is a graph. It's in Dutch, but it's the cumulative fallout of the cabbage fly and cauliflower. And on you have the timeline, and this is the percentage of plants falling out by the cabbage fly. I will give a short explanation. So the light green, that's the untreated. So of course, if you don't do anything, you lose 40% of your plants. And then the green one, that's what the farmers do normally. They do plant container treatment with spinosad, with tracer, which works fine, but only for a few weeks. And if you do nothing, so the untreated, but then afterwards you will cover them. That's a light blue line. And the orange is a reference with nematodes who are killing insects. And that's the orange. It's also having it works a little bit, but not enough for farmers. All the other objects we have been using FRAS in different quantities, so from very high, so 3,360 kilograms to 560 kilograms. And the most important was that we had quite a good efficiency despite the doses. So we say in the beginning we started with a huge amount and a small amount, and then we say it's not necessary to use so much FRAS. So now we know, we are testing, and I have a problem again. Yeah. Maybe there's a slide from at harvest. I just want to show you that this is now not, it's the amount of plants which are green markable. So you can bring it to the auction or the market. The blue ones, they are too small, the cabbages. The red ones is the fallout, and just fall out by other things, by wind or the pigeons who picked them. And the purple one is fall out by the cabbage fly. So you see, if you don't do anything, you have, of course, only 50% of markable cauliflowers. This is doing nothing, and afterwards nothing, so covering them. This is the reference by doing that all farmers are doing by the plant container treatment with spinosad, then the nematodes, and these are all the FRAS. So you see very good efficiency. And we tried then in another test to use less quantities, because of course you have to pay for them. And this is now the dosage response. So you see again the timeline in summer and the percentage of plants who has been filling out. It's the same thing. The first is untreated. Then the blue one is the reference, the treatment with the plant container, which is working good. And then you have all the other objects are FRAS with from 32% to 1%. And actually, it's not such a big difference. So we decided to, in next trials that we are doing now, to use quite a small amount of FRAS because it's cheaper for the farmer and we don't need such huge quantities to use in the field. And now to see the results, if they are as good as they are at the first trials. This is almost the same at harvest. As you see again, if you use 100% FRAS or only 1% FRAS, it's not that big difference. And to conclude, these are results of 4 years trials in cauliflower with it's FRAS from the brown soldier fly. It's something an insect we are breeding here now, and it's average from about 12 tests in 2021, then 12 tests in 2022, 7 in 23, and 3 in 24, always in cauliflower. And you could see if you do it, the untreated is less than the half is you can sell it. It's the green one. If you use a tracer, which is common and what our farmers doing here in Belgium, then you have 80. But FRAS is quite small thing. Then you have almost the same amount of markable cauliflowers. And if you combine both the FRAS and the Steinonema feltia, so the nematodes, you have almost the same result. So they are as good, almost as good as what farmers are used to do. And the global conclusion is we have, after 4 years, positive results with this manure. It's a good solution for farmers because they are really looking for new opportunities. If you only apply this manure, then you have the same protection and yield to the reference treatment as a the spinosad was. And of course, for the farmers, the price is important. So if we buy 1,300 kilogram in bags of 20 kilogram, then it's about a price of 1,100 euros, which is acceptable for farmers. So far about cabbage flies. Are there any questions yet in the chat, Rosemary? Or I can conclude. No. Oh yeah, there's a yeah. Yeah. Do you have a question, Gary? I can't hear it, but
yeah.
Rosemary, can you hear it? Or
yeah, I can't hear it. Gary.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. There.
Yeah. We can't hear you.
No. We see you speaking. Or you can put it in the chat maybe, and then we will answer. Okay. A second important insect which causes a lot of damage in our leek production is the Thrips tabaci. The problem is that we hardly have any molecule left, only one actually, and we have always a high degree of damage. So this is a field in winter, and we were monitoring them in late winter leek. Jonathan doing that, and he doing the countings with the Belize instruments as here. And we had a project on that for 4 years with other colleagues in the other research station in Belgium, because it's a major problem. As we don't have any or a lot, only one molecule left, we are doing trials with banker plants. You can see a picture here of that. It's not really common nowadays in Belgium, so it's quite new, this kind of technique. And some farmers, they don't like it because we don't have huge areas. So it's not that we have really big fields like you see in Germany or France. So especially here in this region, it's the fields are rather small, so they think they are losing crop production of yields by doing this. So we really have to show them the effect on that. The thing is, if you have banker plants, we just want to have the beneficials on that. It's a kind of intercropping, so you focus on those plants. And the purpose of the thing is that you hope that the roots are growing deeper in the soil and keeping the soil moisture there, so it's more transversable for the beneficials to move through the soil. My colleagues have done a lot of countings on the natural enemies of that. Here you see an overview. I won't go in details for that, but there were quite a few. And the conclusions of that was that despite all efforts, we didn't have good results because we have a very high pressure of thrips. And you could see that next to the Phacelia in the first meters, we really had less thrips. That was true. And we had more zebra thrips, which is beneficial compared to the reference. And also in organic leek fields, we noticed more zebra thrips. But despite this, we had a lot of damage on the plants, even after several treatments. So we have in the conventional, we did 6 treatments following warning systems. And we have more damage in conventional compared to organic, so we believe they are more beneficials, of course. But we didn't have any damage reduction next to the banker plants, so we didn't have also not a good quality to go to the auction with that. So the auction, they score that according to the trips damage. If you have too many trips damage, you get a lower price. So then there was another idea, should there be an effect of mulching on the trip damage? And this was a trial in organic leek from our colleagues in Antwerp, another province. And we had a little bit the same conclusions. We had a very high pressure of trips in this trial. They did the mulching in August. And at that time, there was less trips damage on the crop. But later, they didn't saw the same effect. And they had, again, a lot of damage at harvest. They didn't notice any, which was strange, difference in soil moisture. And if they did the counting with the Belize instruments, then they saw that there were less beneficials because there was a very dry weather at that time. I think it was 2022, yes. And they also saw that they had more trips larvae inside the plant. So the results were not good, but the farmers, they didn't like the idea as well because they saw many practical objections on this technique as well. It was not an easy way of working. And then there was another idea which we had done already 20 years before. We tried to drone them and all the trips. So we tried to see an effect of irrigation on trips and leak. And these were colleagues of the other province as well. So they had an object with no irrigation, you see on the left side. In the middle, there was irrigation by sprinklers, so from above. And on the right side, it was drip irrigation, so irrigation from beneath. But we also didn't have any clear significant difference. And we had no good quality at harvest at that time as well. And this was almost the same result we had 20 years ago. Sometimes we had a good result by irrigation, sometimes we didn't see any result. So this is not the good solution, because sometimes farmers are thinking if it rains a lot, then I have less trips because they are droning, but you still have enough trips to have quite some damage. This is very short, the most important problems in leek. I am not sure if there are any questions on that. Is there something in the chat? No? Yes, Rosemary?
There's one from which relates to the cabbage root fly, which
Yes.
was David Townley saying, have you looked at mixing the frass fertilizer with the compost used to raise the cauliflower plants?
No, we didn't. No. Would you expect to have a good result on that? Because we still are doing trials. We can do that. Maybe in a second.
Yes, I don't know whether you want to say anything, David.
I can't hear.
No.
Afternoon, Rosemary.
Oh, hello, David. Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking efficiency of trying to use the material, because it looked like from the graphs that was shown that a low rate was as good as a high rate. And this could be another opportunity to try and explore to see if you could even get the rate down even lower.
No, we haven't done that, but yeah, it might be a good idea. Thank you for that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We will keep you informed by Rosemary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Or
no, not at the moment. No.
Not for the moment. So I will give now the word to Jonathan, who will present his results on UVC treatment.
We will briefly switch places. So the camera on. That is okay. So also good afternoon from my side. My name is Jonathan. I'm going to present some research on UVC. It's not that recent anymore. It's from 2021-22, but I thought it would be very interesting to share this with you, because UVC as a treatment, we see it in strawberry coming up quite fast against powdery mildew, especially with in combination with automatization. Also, the powdery mildew issue with strawberry is very urgent, because a lot of strains are showing resistance to active substances that used to be very well or very good. So resorting to other means like UVC could break resistance and also be just very effective. I tested it in zucchini, because their powdery mildew is also the most important disease, I would say. What we did was tested a couple of years on an outdoor zucchini. But first, maybe on IPM of powdery mildew, looking at cultivar tolerance, it only shows moderate tolerance. So in general, we do also cultivar trials, and at the end of the, let's say, few weeks before the end of the trial, we see that all cultivars always get powdery mildew. So there's no cultivar that is free of powdery mildew. Rotation, it doesn't have that big effect, because you get disease spores blown in from other fields. You have preventive treatments with sulfur products. We saw very good product last year with kind of, it's called mycotiol. It's a sulfur formulation which was very good as a preventive treatment, but was not that good because we saw a lot of deposition on the leaf. It was too long, I think. Also, deposition on the fruits is something you don't want. And then on chemicals, yeah, there's always the risk of fungicide resistant. But in general, for powdery mildew and zucchini, there's still a lot of classes available to switch between. But on UV, we're talking on physical control. It's like a heat treatment, and on the right side you can see something that is coming back. It's a bit of thread throughout all the webinars, I guess. Where this is the IPM pyramid, and we're at the third level: mechanical, physical, and natural control. And it's something that has bigger priority, I guess, than chemical control. So it's, I think, an interesting technique to look at. What we did is we made our own apparatus. It was carried in front of our spray tractor so that there was like a visual confirmation a bit that everything also works. And also the operator is shielded. Very simple device, a generator and 4 light armatures, and there's a peak wavelength at 254 nanometers. And it's also interesting to have this type of tractor because it's a high clearance tractor. You can also mount it sideways, and then you don't need a high clearance tractors as such. Yes. So the treatments, to keep it simple, I will say we did an untreated kind of high dose, 3x, medium dose, 2x, and a low dose, and then the x's are given in the second bullet. The timing in 2020, we did it 3 times a week, and also an item with the high dose once a week, but we did it in daytime. And then in 2021, we did it every 3 days, 14 treatments in total, which is not that practical, after sundown. And powdery mildew, we assessed the leaf area, the upper and lower area that is infected for 5 leaves of the same age. These are a bit details on the trial, both the same cultivar, so that's interesting, and the rows quite similar, row spacing, planting distance. But the trial design was a bit different. In 2020, we did a trial which was not a real experimental design, let's say, but in 2021 we did a randomized complete block trial, which was very interesting there. In 2020, we didn't really see hard evidence. You can see that the chemical is still holding up a bit, but it's keeping, especially on the upper side, you have the lowest amount. But we couldn't do statistical differences here because of the trial design. But we saw some efficacy, some tendency to efficacy here in the high dose 3 times a week. So the trial was already interesting to see that there was we noticed some efficacy. Then in 21 we kind of repeated the trial, but in a randomized complete block design, and also treatments after sundown. And there we see, especially for the high dose at September, which is already late in the season, but when the disease really gets going and the untreated, we see efficacy or let's say an infestation which is similar to the chemical, but it's not exactly as the chemical, but it's going there. Mixed organic you see here. But then when the season continues, in general, I think they keep picking zucchini until first week, second week of October. So the longer they can get their zucchinis disease-free, the better. Here, later on in September, we kind of keep the efficacy for the UV. And I guess the differences from last slide are getting bigger here, where you can see that at the end, it's only the 3X that also has a C, and here the chemical reference. So it's not as good as the chemical reference, but it shows efficacy. And this was, I think, one of the first trials that done in Europe or in the world where we demonstrated efficacy against powdery mildew in zucchini. Yeah, to a picture maybe says more than 1,000 words. This is the untreated, so full of powdery mildew. This is the chemical reference. Notice the plastic, because what we do is we covered the crop with plastic, not to irrigate it. And then this is the 3X at the same time. We had one plant follow that is just randomly, I think we lost the plant, but not due to the test factor. So comparing this and this on powdery mildew is quite good, I guess. This is the medium dose. You already notice some powdery mildew here on the older leaves. It always starts on the older leaves. And then this is the light dose, but here you can also already see quite the infection with powdery mildew. And this is what we call the kind of mixed organic. We try to incorporate the UV in an organic scheme, but it didn't work out that well. So this, yes, are UVC treatments effective in powdery mildew to control powdery mildew in zucchini? And is it feasible also for a farmer to make his own apparatus? Yeah, it's quite simple. But there are still a lot of questions to be answered. But if there are any questions, I can go into detail. John.
Oh, John's got a question. John,
Hello, Rosemary.
Hi, John.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was the chemical treatment just one application at the start, or was it following sort of farmers' practice of
it was following
a number of applications throughout the season?
Yeah, it's following farmers' practice. So it could be. I know we used Boscalit by heart. I also know I think we started off maybe with sulfur. We used Signum and maybe Luna also from Bayer. So we did give it quite a good chemical application, and it also 3 or 4 times. So it's following what is done in practice.
So so it was quite comprehensive program then, not just So it was that's useful.
Nothing exotic.
Great, thank you. I think that's okay, Jonathan. Not anything else.
Okay, then something which is more from today as our pest monitoring research. We started this project 2 years ago already because we thought we want to change, or let's say grow in our monitoring systems towards a community-based system. Also make it semi-automatic, and it's just needed for IPM in vegetable cultivation, because monitoring, I think, is one of the pillars. The project has 6 partners, and we focus on 4 species. The chicory leaf miner, Belgian endives. Chicory is very important crop in Belgium. The cabbage root fly, the carrot fly, and tobacco thrips. Cabbage root fly, we also have a project on efficacy of controlling it. On thrips, we also had quite an intensive study, and there is some output from those projects coming to the monitoring systems. Monitoring important. We're not now at the 3rd level, but at the 2nd. we want the farmer to make informed decisions on how to, what to do. Is it necessary to spray? Is it not necessary to spray? What can I expect? What can I tolerate? Use thresholds and so on and so on. At start, we did an analysis of the monitoring systems we have. And there we see that I looked at 5 points, which are the columns, which is modeling. What models do we have at the moment? What traps do we have at the moment? Is there any community input? Do we already use imaging systems or AI algorithms or some computer-assisted countings? And where is all the data going to? Is there already something of a database, or is it just Excel files or a very basic database? And you can see that on chicory leaf miner, there was already quite a good trap, and it was leading AI and imaging. That's the partners from the KU Leuven who were already involved in an imaging system, and are trying to, or were trying to train an algorithm, and this is some work which is continued in this project. Then for the cabbage root fly, you can see that we weren't using any models. Same for the chicory leaf miner also, but we do have a very good lure and trap. So it's quite selective. It catches a lot of Delia, which is interesting. But there's no community input, no AI, and especially no real database. And the same for carrot, and analysis for carrot and leeks were done. And based on that, we kind of focused the action points of the project. So on the modeling, we benchmarked and are still looking into the morph model a bit, but some slides later on. We looked at tobacco traps. What are we doing? There's from a previous TRIPS project, they established a new temperature day degree model, but there's also a model in France. So we compared those based on historic data. And there we saw that the model, which was established also on the population in Belgium and Flanders, was better suited for us. It had the tendency to warn a bit earlier than, but it's better to be a bit too early than too late. And then on cabbage root fly and on carrot rust fly, we looked at the morph model and from the UK and the SWOT model from Germany, and both models are fairly accurate. But one issue is that soil temperature is not a standard value we have from our meteo, so that's an issue. And also for carrot rust fly, there was not enough historical data on because there we need field specific meteo data, because carrot rust fly tends to be quite field specific. So we did the benchmarking. And this is an example of the morph validation, which was recently done. I asked Rosemary to compile.
We need to fucking do this. I said Monday. I said Monday. Right, I need to do this.
To run the morph model on new, let's say, on compiled meteo data for 10 instances. And as you can see, sometimes we are in the process of analyzing this. Sometimes it's quite off, like in 2019, where our observations don't really match the predictions. But I must say, you can put trust in the model, but you also have to put trust in the observation. So it's not because the model is off, it can also be that the observation is off. But something not always all colleagues like to hear, but that's just, I think, the reality. But then 21, as you can see, the model, the prediction of the morph model really follows the observation. So we're in the process of analyzing this and looking into how many percent of the time peaks align and to what extent. So we can use this next year in our or this season in our monitoring, and we want next year we would like to use the morph model, make it available for individual growers, and to attain that goal we will use the IPM Decisions platform. So the IPM Decisions platform is managed by ADAS. And at the moment, the morph model is implemented. So for you in the UK, all the morph models are there. You can select a specific location, but they're all locations in the UK. What we've done with ADAS is we delivered average meteo data for a couple of years, so that 2 locations in Belgium can also be added as an option. So farmers from Flanders, from Belgium, can select those locations. And just a quick overview of the things we've done in the for the 4 species. So on chicory leaf miner, we are establishing. It's just, I think the final tests are working, are going quite well. It's a high temperature, so the crop doesn't always grow at a high temperature, but we established a day degree model. It wasn't in literature, it wasn't done before. So for chicory leaf miner, there will be a day degree temperature model. Trapping was done with water traps, but it's not that handy to do it in water traps. Sticky plates are easier. So we're switching this season from water traps to sticky plates, but a whole array of tests were performed. Location tests, where to put the sticky plates, what is the damage threshold, because we know the damage threshold in the water traps, but not on sticky plates. And also those sticky plates can be put into what Kai Leuven calls phone box. And it's like a wooden box where you can put a smartphone on top and put your sticky plate in the box. You close the box, and then with the flash from the phone, you always get the same lighting conditions for the algorithm to count the chicory leaf miners. So those are, I think, the main things we are doing for chicory leaf miner. Then for cabbage root fly, I said we had a very good trap, which was a trap from the UK, but they don't make it anymore. The EcoSpy, it went out of production, and we were running low on the system. So we tried to catch Dahlia flies with McPhail traps, and it works very well. So we are switching to McPhail traps with a lure and a sticky plate inside of the McPhail. We also done a quality control, a genetic analysis of 1,500 species at random from all the plates, and to see if is the trap really accurate. Sticky plates are a bit harder sometimes to determine what Dahlia species it is. So with the genetic analysis, we're sure, and it's quite promising. What is interesting is that at the beginning of the season, we also see on some fields some peak of bean seed fly. And then also the phone box is trained with we train an AI algorithm with the same phone box, but it's a different trap design, a different sticky plate size, but so we have 2 boxes at our station. And then the next step, this year we're also going to test TrapView, which Rosemary knows from our Smart Protect project. It's from Slovenia. We were going to try see if the traps they have now, because they developed quite some traps, can be used for Dahlia. For carrot rust fly, we test egg-leak traps, as you can see on the picture, which is similar as the regular trap. So it's also 45 degrees inclination, and you can use the same plates, so with some adaptations of the trap. We are looking at the field risk analysis based on big data from geographical information systems, and also the same comes back every time, except for the last species. We use images to train AI algorithms. For tobacco trips, there you don't see the box because it's just too small to take pictures from. But the tobacco trips, there we are implementing the day degree model, the new one. We also did quite extensive testing on the monitoring methods, especially because direct catches of adults on traps, it's adults. If you look on the plant, it's more the larvae, stage 3 and 4, I think. And then if you take Belize Togran funnels, you can also see the very small larvae, and indirect comes always later when it's already a bit too late when you see the damage. But the early damage warnings are also interesting. And in this, we worked quite a lot of innovating the warning messages using a map system showing a bit more interactive graphs, something more than static text. But this is an ongoing process. Don't know if there are any questions or suggestions on the monitoring.
None at the moment, Jonathan.
Then I'll go very quickly over the slug control. A nice little trial I did at the beginning, or I think beginning of the year, no, end of last year. We had a question on checking efficacy and how attractive the slug pellets are throughout time, and especially we wanted to focus on alternatives for metaldehyde, which is iron phosphate. This is a small image of the trial design. I got a lot of slugs from my market garden. I put 5 pallets of the product, which is comparable to the field dose, which is around 7 to 5 kilos per hectare. Then let them feast on the pellets and give them some lettuce after 2 days. And if the pellets work, they don't eat. And if they don't work, the pellets, the products, they eat quite a lot. So you can assess the damage indirectly. This is untreated. I have 4 products and enough replications. Metarex, Enough, and Iron Max, which are both BASF products, but it's not a sponsored trial or something. So it's one metaldehyde reference, the Iron Max, which is the first iron phosphate, and then slugs, which is a bit higher in concentration, were compared. Looking at mortality, what you see here is for the untreated metaldehyde and both iron phosphates throughout the days after treatment, how many living slugs I still found in the boxes, in the container. Living doesn't mean they are very active. So they can be, let's say, quite hampered in their going around and eating, but they're still alive. Which is more interesting. These are the pellets which are intact still. It's very low, so all the pellets are eaten. Which is more interesting is what is the percentage of leaf that they still eat. And there, 3 days after treatment, it's the lettuce leaves were only introduced 2 days after treatment. So you see here, okay, they're finding lettuce, then lettuce was changed. 7 days after treatment, you see there's a lot of leaf eaten, which you can see here in the untreated. But then metaldehyde, iron phosphate, and iron phosphate 2, there is some leaf eaten, but there's clearly an efficacy. If you're a lettuce grower, you're not very happy with this result, I guess, but we're not talking about lettuce, we're talking about Brussels sprouts here. So, and also there were only 2 lettuce for 10 slugs, so you have to keep it in perspective. This is a very small trial. Nevertheless, there's quite an interest in it because it's quite practical. Also, I think people with gardens at home, if it was a very wet season, so I got a lot of questions on it. Then I'll give the word back to Sabine.
There were no questions on the slugs, no? Okay. Then I saw mostly some pictures about the problem which our farmers having already more than 20 years ago with the pigeons. We have quite some big population of pigeons here in the region, and they are doing a lot of damage to crops, not only to cabbages, but also to peas, also to zucchini or other things and cereals later in the season. So farmers, they are using cannons, but of course, because of the noise and the frequent use, there were a lot of complaints from the neighborhood. So they asked us to test the alternatives, and we have done that about 20 years ago. We started with that. These are some pictures from the fields, with farmer fields. So sometimes it's only at the edge of the field that you have a lot of damage, but sometimes it's almost the whole field. And in the beginning, they start eating the small leaves, but sometimes they also eat the heart of the plant. So then it's totally lost. And farmers are getting very nervous about that. And so we started 2 years of doing trials with alternatives. Here you see more bigger cabbages at harvest. So because of the pigeons are eating all the outer leaves, you can't use those leaves to protect the cauliflower crop. So by coloration, so that it doesn't stay white again. It should be completely white. So then they have a quality loss, and the auctioneers doesn't want this kind of cabbages. We also had damage in winter because of excrements on the cabbage on the field. So at that time, they are also lost for the market. So we started with a lot of things coming here on the market to verstromen. I'm looking for, yeah, to scare off the birds. And one of the things was an imitation bird of prey. Some of them, they are quite useful using the first 2 or 3 days, but at the end, all those, the pigeons are getting used to that kind of things. So farmer was thinking, okay, it's going to work, and he was satisfied about that for a few days. Sometimes he bite the instrument, but after a week it doesn't work anymore, and he had damage again. So this was a scary man, which was also where this is on our fields working quite good, and we did a comparison with covering with nets to see the reference, but even that, it's like human people coming through your field. After a few, maybe 1 week, they get use of it as well. And we had sound systems in different forms and formats. Also a lot of work for putting this on your field, and then you have to make some mechanical weeding, and then you have the wires who are not appropriate, so you have to remove sometimes the instrument, a lot of labor, or you have to charge the batteries for the scary man. And farmers were really, they didn't like that anymore. Then sometimes they invent their own instruments. We had also balloons, which were giving problems because the wire was whistling around the plant and also harmed the plant as well. And finally, we asked a real bird of prey, but that was then too expensive because we had to call the owner, and then he has to come for several hours, and it didn't work if you only hire them for 1 day. So you should hire them a few days after, and you have to combine it with hunting. And that was another problem, because if you have the hunting, you have the regulations as well. You're not allowed to do that everywhere, not in the whole time of the year. And you had to do a lot of administration. You have to fill in forms. So that was not useful at all. And at that time, there was some fragrances on the market, so they asked to test these fragrances. This is a trial in Inagro, and we did so the control, which was eating up almost completely, then covering with nets, which was fine, but time-consuming. Then we had some testing agents, which didn't work at all. You can see it at the picture. Essential oils like lavender and other things, orange oils, and garlic extracts. At the same time, we also test milk and Tabasco, which had no effect either. And the problem is that you should treatment each time again after you have a rain shower. At that time, we had many rain showers. Now it should be more easier. But of course, it's quite expensive because of all the labor, and we still had a lot of damage. There was also a thing on the market called rabbits, and it was not effective against rabbits after our test results, but those people are going to the farmers and say, we have a solutions for you. So a lot of people bought that product, and at the end it didn't work. And then later, I guess about 2013, we had the lasers, the manual lasers. This had a better effect, but disadvantage was that you always should go to your field. So if your fields are quite far from your farm, you are not going to do that. And it's also dangerous for the eyes. So you also should be aware that you are pointing to the soil, to the ground. And later they came lasers with a visor, which made it more easier to point from a longer distance. So these are gooses, I think it were not pigeons on that. And the lasers are working quite good if you combine them with the hunting. And that's always the same from each thing. If you can combine with real shooting, then they are more aware that it's dangerous. But my colleague found in the Netherlands those funny thing, and just a fox, image of a fox in a billboard, and you could place it on your field. And the first days you really think it's like a fox, and that worked also for better than the other things, but only for 1 week or so on. But now we have a whole range of instruments that we can set on the field and combine them and change them because we still have a big population. But if you really want to prevent, you should covering all your fields, or you set a chicken fence against the rabbits quite high. Sometimes we don't have any plant left if we don't put any fences or netting, so it's really a problem. So nowadays most of our trials are covering with nets, also with farmers. If they have small fields, they're covering with nets. It's quite expensive, but otherwise they don't have any crop unless the cereals are ripening. When we're coming at the end of June, the pigeons are moving to the cereals, and then the pressures on the cabbages is far less. So in the second, we do 2 cultivation of cabbages. So if we cultivate them during really summer, then it's not a problem, but it's early spring from March until end of May. Of course, when you have to cover it with nets, it's difficult to, each time you have to move them. So farmers they're very inventive, and they have some systems to roll up their nets. So they invent them from themselves, so making it much more easier to protect the crops on that. Conclusions of all the system, and generally the pigeon get use of all of them. We have too much pigeons, so it's a big problem for cabbage farmers. Some of the farmers, they don't cultivate cabbage anymore because of them. There are no fantastic systems on the market, despite what sellers you want to believe you. And if you have to ask a hunter, then you have specific administration to do. So you have to apply for them 24 hours in advance, so the administration can check if everything is fine. So for a lot of farmers, it's too much work, and they just covering with nets, so to be sure they have no damage. Oh yeah, I skipped this, but it's a funny movie. Maybe I was not sure, Rosemary. Is it okay if we share the presentation with you, or is that not?
Yeah, no,
yes,
you
okay.
can do if you're happy to. Yes. Yeah.
Are there any questions on the pigeon or the rabbits?
Yes. So Marita asked, what about use of birds, which I think you partly covered. hawks or eagles against rabbits and pigeons?
Yes, we just use them against pigeons, and we had some problems with that. So we had to hire them, the person which has the bird of prey, for several hours. And then it didn't work after 1 day, so we had to hire them for a few days, also in combination later with the hunting. So if the bird of prey was left, then we need to ask the hunter. But it was too expensive. It was about 2,000 euros to do that several times. So farmers say that it's too much money to protect my crops. So I prefer then to have nets which I can use several times. And another question, drones. We didn't, no, we didn't test drones at that time. We didn't have drones at that time. So that would be a good suggestion, yes, to hunt them with the drones. Yeah, sometimes farmers, they even use an old car with a radio. They are very inventive, but it was always the same. It only works for a few days, and then they know there's no danger. So it's really a problem. Some of the farmers say that's the biggest problem for them during their cultivation periods, the pigeons. Okay. Any other questions on that? No? Then I just want to show you a very, very short about Smart Protect. Oh, very strange, those audience. So we, together with Rosemary, we did a thematic network on a smart IPM solution in vegetable crops. We did it with partners around Europe. Again, the pyramid you already saw, but I want to show you the QR code, because if you scan that, you will enter the platform of Smart Protect, and there you can see a whole range of smart IPM tools. You can also enter it by going to our website, Smart Protect H2020 and there you can go to the platform. And it's really easy. It's for you, it's easy. It's always in English, but if you're not a speaker, speaking another language, it's translate. All the partners have done the effort to translate it in their own language, so you can choose it there. And then you see the 4 types of techniques: application or decision support system, diagnostic and monitoring, or you can apply for interesting in bacteria or viruses, fungi, insects, and then you get all the techniques who are working against insects. Very user-friendly, about approximately 200 smart tools. You get a short explanation. If you want to have more information, just click on the icon. There's a filter system on greenhouse and open field. If you're a greenhouse farmer and you only want to have the techniques work in greenhouse, you use this filter. Or you say, I'm only interested in techniques with nematodes, or here the UVC robot about of the research from Jonathan. And it's a very user-friendly overview. Sometimes you have a picture, you have a link to the website, and you see in which countries you can use it and which crops you can use it, and some technical requirements. So it's free for use. I can recommend you that. And especially Rosemary and her colleagues have done a lot of effort to write some fact sheets as well on the vegetables IPM. You can find them on the website as well. So here you have around diseases and pests, tomatoes, also in onions and other crops. Colleague from Rosemary has bundled all those information per crop. So you can, if you're a carrot grower, you can download here the file and you will find all the techniques which were applicable in carrots or in cucumbers or in lettuce. So I invite you to join our project and to find your information on smart IPM tools there. I think now I should about conclude. So I want you to thank you for this webinar. If you have questions, you can contact us. I have left my email and that of Jonathan in the presentation. Thank you for attending. I will skip this. Are there any questions left?
I
Yes.
think there aren't any other questions
No
in the
questions.
chat.
Okay.
No, thank you both very much indeed. Yeah, a tremendous range of information. Some of the problems are the same, and
Yes.
some of the problems are different. So no, brilliant overview of
You're welcome.
what you've all been doing.